I heard this voice in my head and it said, something important is coming. And I went outside, this is a summer day, and I meditated on that. And then I heard this voice said, write your book. That day changed my life 10 years ago. It was trying to tell me I am the enlightenment. You cannot be that thought and the one observing it. Who we are is awareness. The only thing stopping us is the 6 inches. The 6 inches between our two ears. When we change our perception or story, we can create anything.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to the Vibrant Soul Society, the conversations. Our mission here is to help you discover that you are greater than your thoughts. The opposite side of our thoughts is our divine essence. So every week I have various guests on to help us with wisdom, inspiration, and tips on how to live a better life. Today, we're very blessed and privileged to have Bruce on the conversations. Bruce, welcome.
Yeah. Thank you. So excited to be here.
So people that are unfamiliar with you, they see your name, they're rapid reprogramming, but who is Bruce?
Well, I'm this handsome silverhead fox, 66 years old, which we're talking about, not really who I am, that eternal soul within. That's my true essence.
We're always getting to this place of like this divinity within us, but what was our human journey? How do we get there? Like, what was your human life like before you knew yourself as this divine essence?
Yeah. So I have been in construction probably almost 40 years, and I love construction. I love working with my hands. I love nature. I love remodeling, taking an old house and fixing it up. I was a general contractor, and then I went into, how can I make more money? And then I got into investing in real estate, house flipping. And then about 10 years ago, I don't know what triggered this, but I heard this voice in my head and it said, something important is coming. And I went outside, this is a summer day, and I kind of meditated on that. And then I heard this voice said, write your book. That day changed my life 10 years ago. I'll be sharing the stuff that I've learned. We talked about our hero's journey the last 10 years of, I've been asking that question. What was that voice? I do believe that was my highest and best version of myself talking to me, my higher consciousness, my true self, my authentic self. And it felt like my intuition could see the future. If I went down this path of learning about what was that voice and what was it trying to tell me? Because it just said something important's coming. It didn't tell me what was important. And then I saw 5 signs of light right after that. Like the first week, literally the next day, I remember standing in the kitchen and I saw this little teeny bright light. And I've looked out that kitchen millions of times and it was like it was trying to tell me something. And I move a little bit and I could feel it literally like a tractor being pulling me back to see the light. And then 5 different more times light where mainly it was always the sun. And it was trying to tell me something about light. And now jump 10 years later, I've awakened that I am that eternal light. It was trying to tell me I am the enlightenment. I am that eternal light within.
So when you heard this voice, you went out and meditated, or you're meditating and then you heard this voice?
Well, I heard that voice and it was like really loud, very clear, very specific. I've never hear that one voice once before when it said something. I was stressing about money like 20 years or 30 years ago, and it said, everything's going to be all right. I felt this calmness go through my body. So that was like the other time. That was the same thing. It was my highest self. And so I heard that voice and I just went outside, and that's when I heard that same voice go, write your book.
Yes, I'm just curious about is, when did you start meditating and why? What was going on in your life? How'd that come about?
I've always kind of spiritual, not at the earlier years. I would definitely say the last 10 years, I really felt connected to spiritual people, but not really the enlightenment part, but just people that were on that path and they seemed to be happy. I did a lot of dancing and stuff. And so it just felt like I liked those people. I could just feel the resonance and I was feeling good. They were happy. They were positive. They were inspiring me. And so I just loved that, being around them and everything.
It's quite interesting. I talk to people is that when they have earlier experience that prepares them for something that's coming in the future. And usually they think it's kind of insignificant, it's not really going to add too much, but then something hits later in life like, oh, all right, I'm ready for this now. It's like you're prepared for it. So something happened earlier in life that was preparing you for this moment.
Yeah. Kind of like I was kind of saying, it's really been the hero's journey the last 10 years of, I've been on this journey of what is important. So there's been a lot of aha moments. What is important to me, and really the last lesson and probably the most important is we are that eternal light within, and awakening and remembering who we really are. We're asleep and we've forgotten who we really are. This true essence, this true power of who we really are. And when we wake that up, we can achieve anything, right? We are creators with the co-creator. And when you learn the science and everything, it will, you can manifest whatever you want in life.
So what's interesting to me is like the first time you heard the voice, it seemed like life didn't shift that dramatically. The second time you heard it, it seems like, oh, now I get the message.
Yeah. Well, I was always trying to think, who was that and why now? And, what triggered that? But I think my higher self knew I had a higher purpose than construction, even though I loved it. That wasn't real purpose, and realizing that me awakening and helping other people awaken to their true power was really my true, like, I know that I love raising the collective consciousness of Earth. And then how do I do that? By helping people awaken and become enlightened, that eternal light within, right?
Everybody has this mental purpose. They think this is why I'm here to do this, but maybe
Yeah.
it's not. Like we chose to incarnate for this reason. I see this quite a lot where people get lost in their mind thinking this is my purpose, but it's always been a mental purpose. It hasn't been coming from this deeper place. Is that what you think was going on with you? That you were always in construction, you loved it, but soul was reminding you like, hey, there's something greater than this.
Yeah. No, I could feel that shifting that 10 years ago changed my life. That 2 minutes, maybe it wasn't even a minute. I don't know, but definitely it changed my life, my trajectory. Like I said, I love construction, but that was not my purpose. A kind of awakening 10 years ago. And then on this journey of, what was that?
Right. But it's really interesting too when you did you feel this sense of calm after the first time you heard the voice? Did you also feel that calm when it said everything is going to be all right? Did you feel that calm, that peace at the time, like you did the
Yeah.
second time?
I didn't feel the calmness. And that's where I went outside and meditated, and it said, write your book. But I didn't feel calmness. It was like my highest self was directing me. You need to go down this path, right? You need to help yourself first and then help others.
To me, it was really hard when I heard that voice as well, reminding me that I'm perfect spirit. Everyone listening is perfect spirit, that divine essence, but we get so lost in thoughts and the challenges of life that we forget to meditate, to take the time out. Because sitting with ourselves sometimes is the hardest thing to do. Do you
Yeah.
find this as well as dealing with our own shadows, our own darkness?
That's a great question. I've been on this journey for 10 years. That's how I start my morning off every time. Be still and know that you're God. I just quiet my mind and just kind of go to that spot because I've done it for so long. My mind doesn't fill up with a bunch of crap right away. Kind of very clear. And then I kind of organize, what do I need to do today? What's the most important thing? Right.
Right. Yeah. Because I think that's where a lot of people have troubles in the beginning. I just wonder if you had this as well when you started your meditating and sitting with yourself, because the mind brings up all of the garbage. You should have done this. You should have done this. And it just starts going off in a tangent until we through practice of meditation, the voice starts to get calmer. This chatter seems to diminish over time. So we can be still and hear that deeper wisdom that's
Yeah.
always there, but we get so caught up in the hamster wheel of life, it's hard to hear it. Like that was my life for 38 years was doctor's medicine. I didn't know another way out because that was the hamster wheel I was on until I discovered meditation one day. And it was like, oh, I can see my mind, so I'm not my mind.
Yeah. That's a beautiful awakening for me too. And if you want, I could do a little exercise where people realize that we are pure consciousness and we have a mind, right? There's a difference. There's two things. Pure
Right.
consciousness, energy, it's alive, it's intelligent. And now we're becoming observers of the mind, right? Our thoughts, our emotions and feelings. We're not that, right?
Because that'd be really helpful if there's like a practice.
Yeah, yeah. I'd love to do a little exercise with everybody. So I want people, like I said, first of all, we are pure consciousness and we are consciousness, what? Awareness. So we're becoming aware of our mind, which is our thoughts, our emotions and feelings and our beliefs. So I want everyone out there and on what if they everyone just kind of close their eyes and imagine a red ball. Imagine a red ball. Now let go of that thought of that red ball. Now what I want you to do is imagine a yellow triangle. See that yellow triangle in your mind, that thought. Okay, now let go of that. Now imagine a tree by a stream. Okay, now let go of that thought. Now think of a funny one, like a big pink elephant with polka dots. Okay, so now I want you to let go of that. So what I'm trying to say is we are not that red ball. We are not that triangle. We're not the tree with the stream. We're not that pink elephant. We're the one observing that thought. You cannot be that thought and the one observing it. Who we are is awareness. Another way to look at that is, so there's awareness, conscious awareness, but you become the watcher of your mind, of that thought. You become the observer of that mind. You become the witness of that mind. But you cannot be the observer of that red ball and be that red ball, that thought. And when you distinguish that and separate that, we're the one watching the mind and we become aware of the mind, we become aware of our thoughts, we can separate that. Like when someone says, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, that's just the mind talking, but we're the one observing that, right? So that I like that little exercise to kind of help to separate the pure consciousness from our mind and our thoughts.
Yeah, that's actually very good because if you can imagine something, you're observing the imagination. You're not the actual red ball, but you can see it. So you can get separation like, oh, so this red ball is like on the movie screen. I'm sort of like at the movie theater watching the screen with all these different images.
Yeah.
It's a simple practice. And they don't teach you these simple things because the medical professionals are not spiritually awake either. Because I always question myself, like when I was suicidal in my 20s and I was seeing my psychiatrist 17, 18 years, he never once said to me, why are your thoughts true? Because he himself didn't have that separation.
Yeah. That was a big aha moment, is being the observer of the mind.
Yeah, once you're the observer of the mind, then I think the mind starts to get quieter because you're not feeding it. You're not buying into the stories that it's telling you that I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not deserving, and it has a million and one things.
Yeah. Sometimes I pay attention to my mind is actually quite funny, but then I hear myself laughing at that thought, even though I know it wasn't that thought. I was observing of that. And it was really like, wow, it's really kind of awakening that I wasn't that thought, but that was a funny thought. It made me laugh. And being the observer of that, right? We can become the watcher of that, right? And so we can not get triggered sometimes because we realize we're not, these past programs and patterns and stuff.
I see that quite a bit. People laughing at their thoughts when they get that shift and they see these stories. I see them and they're just laughing because, oh, I took this as my truth, and it's not. It's silly.
Yeah. And you've heard of Bruce Lipton. So he says like 70% of our programs are negative. And if we have like 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day and 70% of those negative, that's like 43,000 negative thoughts. And we attract like who we're being, right? If I'm not enough. And that's really messed up when we realize we think we are those thoughts, but no, we're the observer of that thought and we can let go that I'm not that, right? And then you can go down the path who you really are. And
Right.
that's,
That's really brings up a good point too, that we have all this negative programming and that does create our reality. I know when I was very sick, I would always wake up and the first thought on my mind is, what's going to go wrong today?
sounds horrible.
Right. But that's when you're dealing with 7 chronic illnesses, you don't see a glimmer of hope. It's like, am I going to be able to walk today? I'm going to have a migraine today. You just keep feeding this negativity. So, like you're
Yeah.
saying, if we have 70%, I think it's actually higher than that. Maybe 80, 90% of our thoughts
Well,
are
it could be
negative.
higher if we're thinking about our past or in the future, but if we're present, yeah.
A lot of people don't know what present is. What is present to you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the who I am is that I am, and the I am is always present. You know, I like that. I learned this from well, it was a Kung Fu Panda, and it said, "Yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but there's only today, which is the present." And it's like a gift when you appreciate that we don't know when our last day is. And like right here in Seattle, Washington, it's beautiful blue sky out there, and you be grateful and thankful. You know, I love those two words if you pay attention. Full. So we're grateful. We're thankful. We're filling ourselves up with things that we're grateful for. And grateful, the science is saying that when you're in those frequency of gratitude, man, you feel great, right?
But yeah, just really learning to be present. And the way I describe presence is that you're aware that you're sitting right now. You're aware that your feet on the floor. A lot of people just are listening right now. They're not even having that awareness that they're sitting.
Yeah, that's a good point. And being kind of thinking about you and your shoes, when you're in pain, that's hard to override the mind sometimes when you're in that pain. I really get that. It's a little bit different when you have pain and it's reminding you all the time to overcome that. My
Yeah.
hat's off to you for doing
Yeah.
that.
Pain, I always call pain the greatest distraction because it can't get you to focus on who you are. You're focusing on the pain, which amplifies the pain and makes it stick.
Yeah, pain, but it can be a great teacher too.
Right. It can be a great teacher to realize how can you soften that and be thankful for that and be grateful for that pain, to send love and appreciation into it, to say, okay, this is information. The body needs some help. Where can I get some help for the body? But not running immediately to doctors or medicine, to say, I want individuals to, like, instead of getting reactionary, pause so you can respond properly.
Yeah. So my awakening really is that I'm pure consciousness. Consciousness is alive, called life force. So I believe in the second trimester of pregnancy, this light, pure consciousness, comes into my heart, starts my heart, and creates light. And this pure consciousness is energy, and it is an intelligent energy. So this is who we are. Now, that's the simple version, but who we're not is our programs. So like the first 7 years of our life, like our mind is a supercomputer. And so we need to be downloaded with program. We're not worked out programs. So we are downloaded. And how do we learn these programs? Through our environment or our perception of our environment. And so what is our environment? It's like where we live. What area do we live? What neighborhood? It's our parents, moms, dads. It's our brothers, sisters, and social media. So That's our environment and our perception of it. Now, I like the perception of it because we can change, when we change our perception or story, we can create anything. When we change that perception, our paradigm. My sister, we look at things totally different, even though we have the same environment, with same parents. When you look at our own family, they have the same environment. It's so different. So we have that perception and we have that environment. That's where we learn a lot of our knowledge, because our mind's a computer and we have programs, and that programs, it creates our identity, it creates our personality, it creates our behavior, it creates habits, it creates patterns, it creates our paradigm. It is our structure, but that's not who we are. We have that. We are pure consciousness, which is, to me, is that eternal light of God in me. But I have all these things. And then I also have an ego that wants to make things right, wrong, good, bad, white, dark. And nothing is right or wrong or good or bad, but thinking makes it so, right? So when we say that's wrong, that's just our ego. And our ego is like the sensational cravings. And we will never be long-term happy if we're always in the ego, right? When we realize we are pure consciousness, the eternal light of God within us, we are infinite. We are all that is. We're connected to everything and everywhere because we're pure energy. That's what science is saying, right? Einstein, his world's most famous equation, equals mc squared, is saying everything is energy. And then, he also said, this is the one I love, is, he said, everything's energy, and that's all there is to that. Match the frequency of the reality that you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. It has to be. So he's saying, when we match the frequency, we're being that frequency. Like if I want to be wealthy, I must be in the frequency of wealth. If I want to be healthy, I need to be in the frequency of wealth. Same thing with relationship. If I want love, I must be in the frequency of love. If I want to be happy, I must be in the frequency of happy. And if we have those 70% or more negative programs, it's hard to be. We are what they call them energy mismatch, right? We want to be abundant, but we're in the frequency of fears, worries, doubts, guilt, shame, blame. I'm separate. I'm disconnected. And that's a problem because we only attract who we're being. And if we're being in fear, we're being, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy enough, we're going to attract that. Frequency is like the science of manifesting now. When we match the frequency, we can create, he says it has to happen, right? That, to me, that's exciting, knowing if, I can even give it a personal example of that if you want. And so when I was in the real estate world and I was house flipping, I was starting to do really good in it. And I was making consistently $30,000 a month. And I did 3 deals in a row, and I was working on the 4th deal. And I remember at night, 3 or 4 nights, I couldn't sleep. I was so excited. I knew I was financially abundant. And that was my inside world. My frequencies were in the frequency of joy, happiness, bliss, because I knew I was abundant. But when I noticed in the outside world, people, circumstance, and events were magically aligning with me because my frequency. And so people wanted to lend me money to do these deals. They were finding these deals. They have this thing called a bird dog. They would help find the deals and you would give them a percentage of the deal. Subcontractors wanted to work with me. People wanted to partner up with me. So that was the outside world. So when I was at frequency inside, the outside world that it became one. And so my practice is always going back to those nights where I couldn't sleep to be in that residency of, I am abundant, I am wealthy.
That's really a good point, that it all boils down to, even if you get the largest microscope, you see the quantum field, it always breaks down to its energy, frequency, or particle wave, how you want to define it. It always breaks that. And we think everything is solid around us, but it really isn't. If you really look at things, it's a lot of empty space. But you make a good point that everyone wants to be happy, they want to be healthy and all these things. But then the mind's coming up with all this stuff that's lowering that frequency, the frequency of health, abundance, whatever it may be. So we need to isolate and separate with this practice you gave us earlier to imagine that. And maybe you imagine on the screen somebody that's abundant, happy, healthy, instead of like a red ball or whatever. You imagine like piles of money or a house or your healthy body. Would
Yeah.
that be just as effective?
What I have done is I make a video of what I want to happen, what to say with wealth. So I make a video where I have pictures of my dream car, my dream house, my dream vacation with my significant other. So all the things that I want to happen dealing with wealth, I'm saying it from the state I'm already there. I am already wealthy. I'm so grateful and thankful now that I am wealthy. So we have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the thinking mind. The subconscious mind is the emotional mind, and they must become one in harmony, going the same direction, positive. A thought creates a chemical called motion. Motion creates a feeling in the heart, and the feeling in the heart creates a residency, a frequency, and that frequency must be in the frequency of wealth. If you want to manifest wealth, you must be in that frequency. When I was in that frequency of that circumstance, events magically started coming to me because emotions and feelings are magnetic. Have you heard of HeartMath?
For the
Well,
audience may not be familiar with that. So could you explain that?
yeah, HeartMath, they study kind of the coherence between our mind and our heart. And the point I wanted to bring up was our heart is supposed to be 60 times more electrical than our mind and 5,000 times more magnetic. So we are sending out that thought, that intention, but to manifest it, to create it, we must feel those emotions and the feelings of already having that dream fulfilled, right? Like I was going into that joy, that ecstasy of being wealthy. And then the law of residency is saying that if I'm that frequency, I'm going to attract that, right? One other thing I did want to share is the law of attraction. Most people do not understand the law of attraction and why it does not work for them. The law of attraction is a secondary law. The first law or the primary law is the law of frequency. So it is saying we must resident, we must be that frequency, right? You're thinking it, you're seeing it, you're having those heightened emotions, we're feeling that, and then we will manifest that. You have to get the frequency right, right? Most people, their energy frequency is way too low to manifest it. They are energy frequency mismatch. And that's where I help people do with Rapid Program is I can go into their subconscious mind from their higher self and find out exactly what the root cause is of that problem. And so they can let go of that resistance keeping them in low energy, low frequency. And we have to let go of all those negative programs that are playing all the time, that pattern, that structure. We have to let go of that and realize, like we were talking about, we are not those programs. We have programs, but who we are is this infinite being, pure, eternal light. And when we awaken to that, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, to understand that the mind has all these resistance through all these stories that we're not good enough, we're not worthy enough. We need to cut out this program if that's the way to do it. We need to disassociate with it that this isn't me, it's not supporting me. So how do you clear that programming so it's not interfering in their manifestations?
We are all so close to manifesting anything and everything. We are all like 6 inches from, I'll just say, well, manifesting wealth or your health. The only thing stopping us is the 6 inches between our two ears.
Yeah, it really creates lots and lots of issues.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I do. I hope people connect to their higher self their true self, their authentic self. This is the highest and best version of themselves, the eternal God within, that light within. And I help it treat the negative subconscious programs in the subconscious mind, right? And when we get to the root of the problem, we can almost instantaneously start healing, right? I'm sure that's what you kind of felt, where you miraculously in like 3 weeks, whatever, started totally shifting, right? You could feel that in your body,
Yeah, I
right?
knew it was done. It's just a matter of time for the body to catch up to that reality, but I knew it was done. And I
Yeah,
always find this an interesting term when I hear best version. My own internal thing is there's only one true version. Everything else is a mental disguise.
it's a great one. I like that. Yeah. Did you hear about that book called Dying to Be Me?
Yeah, I did hear that. I don't think I've read it. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Dying by Me, Anita Mordechai. Yeah,
Yeah.
I heard the book, but I never actually read it.
Well, her story is kind of interesting, where she was on her literally dying, like last, right, last, gonna live a couple days, having the priest there and everything. And she literally does a near-death experience. In her near-death experience, she like meets her father who's passed on, and she thought her father didn't love her and had like angers and with her and everything. And then in this near-death experience, she talks to him, and he's like, no, I love you. And, I love you. You're beautiful. Unconditionally. And then she comes back, and she almost instantaneous heals herself, because instead of having all that negative emotions stuck in her heart and her body, she would let go of that. And then just like from a stage 4 cancer, miraculously, and, like, I don't know, like in a month, she was like walking again and all this, because she let go of that trapped emotion, this very heavy, dark energy, right?
Yeah,
And then she just made this miraculously healing.
yeah, that we just go through this journey. And before this show, and I think really interesting to talk about this because we mentioned it a little bit over the last 10 years, you were going on this journey, this hero's journey. So you want to talk a little more because you mentioned Joseph Campbell in the beginning before the call. You want to go through a little bit of what you've been going through?
Yeah. And what I'll do is, like, when I heard that voice, it said something important's coming, and then write your book. Just kind of a couple of highlights. That one, I was going down that path about the mind and realized, separating that I am not my thought, emotions, feelings. I'm the one observing I'm the one watching my mind. I'm the one, there's awareness, there's watching it, there's observing it, and the witnessing of the mind. And when I could really start separating that out, everything in my life started shifting, like I wasn't those programs, right? To give a little example of that. So when I was doing this thing, connecting to my higher self, and I would say I'm wealthy or I feel well, and I could literally hear my subconscious mind go, bullshit. Who do you think you are? Where's your proof? That was the negative subconscious program. So I had to let go of that, right? I'm not that. I'm not enough. I'm connected to everything. And so it made such a difference in such a short time when I finally let go of all those negative programs, and realizing that I'm this infinite power within, that I'm connected to all wealth, all riches already. But I have to match those frequency. I have to let go of resistance and all the negative beliefs, the limiting beliefs, right? To kind of go in that a little deeper, there's like 18 negative programs that I've kind of picked out, and they are fears, worries, doubt, guilt, shame, blame. I am not enough. I'm not worthy enough. I am separate. I am here. What I want is over there. Then there's also some past life history. So these are all like negative programs that we have, and we have to let go of these negative programs and awaken and remember we are this eternal power within. And when we do that, life becomes exciting, right? Everything I want, I already am. And because I'm this Enlightenment is like the highest emotional frequency out there. That's between, got to go into that a little bit deeper. Dr. David Hawkins has an energy frequency chart. And from basically from 1 to 249 is lower consciousness. 0 is dead, no more consciousness within us. And 250 is neutrality. That's neutral energy. And 251 to 1,000 is higher consciousness. That's who we are. And we learn all these negative programs and we think that's who we are, but that's not who we are, right? We learn that and we have to let go of all those negative programs that keep us stuck, right? And I can work with people and literally in minutes, like in a 20, 30-minute session, and identify some of these negative programs and help them release that they might have had 1, 5, 10, 20 all their life within minutes sometimes, like connecting their higher self, having their higher self treat these negative programs, the root cause, why there's that resistance, keeping them in that low frequencies of I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, right?
Yeah, you bring up a good point that I want to talk about, that the patterns that keep us stuck. But when I was very sick, I figured it was just my lot in life. This is just what I'm going through. I didn't realize I was stuck. I was just afraid this is my lot in life to be sick. So how do you move them forward to see that there could be a possibility to have a bigger dream than this little dream of being sick?
I help people from where they're at now, what's their dream destination, and I bridge that gap. We all are eternal light. When we think like God, that we are already connected to that, we already one with that, we are matching those frequencies, right? When we think from that, we're sending the electrical thought out, and in that heightened emotion of I'm already that, then we can manifest it fast because we are in the frequency of that. Consciousness is present in that present moment. The I am is right now, right? The I is the eternal God within. M means now, right? So when we say, the two most powerful words is I am, the eternal God is I, M means now, we're coming from that present moment. And if we say we want this, or we would like this, or that would be nice, we're saying it's in the future and we'll never attract that, because to manifest that, we have to be in that frequency now, right? We can't say tomorrow I want, or can I have that later, or a year from now, right? Everything has to be stated in the present moment. That is pure consciousness now, right? And when you are this infinite, all-powerful energy, pure consciousness, already connected to everything and everywhere, right? Like for me, I'm practicing saying, I am wealthy, I am rich, I am already that. But I must come from the emotions to match that, right? Emotions is like the fastest way to manifest something because it's the highest frequencies, or some of them are the highest frequencies, also lowest frequency, but we're choosing, right, to be in that joy, that grateful, that thankful. Now that everything's stated in the present moment, right? I love that saying, I am so grateful and thankful now that, whatever that is, healthy, wealth, love, joy.
Yeah, you said something really profound. Think like God. That can shift everything if they realize we have that consciousness of the creator within us.
Yeah.
And that is the voice of God, you could say.
I'm getting shivers thinking. So to go into that deeper, about my highest, like God is I am, means now I am all that is, right? Just like your book in the back there, I am that. So God within us is saying, I'm already that. And when you think like God, and then you have those heightened emotions and you feel like God and you believe like God, that's when you can manifest it, right? Because you're in the frequency. Einstein is saying it has to work. It has to happen. It is the laws of the universe. It's not psychology. It's physics. It's just saying when you're in the frequency of love and the frequency of 500 to 600, You are going to attract love because you are that.
Right. Exactly. I just had this image too of that we get into this separation, and Ram Dass was saying we are God in disguise.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you heard that Rumi saying that we're not the tiny raindrop in the mighty ocean? We are the mighty ocean in the raindrop. I remember saying a billionaire, and he was kind of saying only 2% of us realize our true power, how really powerful we are. And I think that's true. When we awaken and remember that that light, that pure consciousness came into our body, gave us life, that we have born that way. And we are that. We have always been that. We are already that. And then the present moment, I am that. And
Hmm.
life becomes exciting when you think like God and you feel like God.
Right. And you tap into that 2% of just realize that power that
Yeah.
everyone has this. It's an innate gift.
I want to go into that a little deeper. So, how powerful we are, literally and figuratively. So, Dr. Bruce Lipton said each cell in our body is 0.07 volt. Well, you say, well, that's not much. But then he goes on to say there's 50 trillion volts within our body. 50 trillion. So you go 50 trillion times 0.07 is 3.5 trillion volt, potential volt. And to give an example of that, how powerful that is, that like a lightning bolt is like a billion volts. We're 3.5 trillion volt. And that's within us. And now the newest science called quantum physics. Quantum means energy. Physics means the study of energy and matter. Is saying the word quantum entanglement is we're connected to this entire universe. Are you kidding me? Ah, can't get any better than that.
Yeah. Yeah. That book is a reminder to me that I have back there that I am that. And what's really a surreal experience when you really understand that. And sometimes you may have that direct experience of there's no separation. It's all right here, and I'm connected to all that is. They talk about this in the quantum entanglement that we're all intertwined, we're all interconnected. There's zero separation. If there's any separation, it's the mind creation.
Spirituality has been saying that for thousands and thousands of years that we're all, everything is all connected everywhere. And now the science it's a fact that quantum entanglement, everything is connected. So for me, like I know I'm connected to wealth, riches. Science is saying that. Now I have to believe that, and I want to either let go of all the programs that are stopping me. Awakening is a good thing that we're connected to everything, but a program's not bad too. If you have a program that I am abundant and it's playing 95% of the day, creating 95% of my reality, it can be a good thing if it's a positive thing, right? But if it's a negative thing playing 95% of the day, 95% of my reality, that's a problem, right? If we're being the frequency of fear, I'm not enough, I'm not worthy enough, and we're going to track that, right? The frequency first and then attraction second. I like that there's a kind of a steps that everything starts out as energy and then frequencies and then our reality or matter, however you want to say that. So we have to master our energy first and create that frequency to match that frequency of what we want, right? To be healthy. Einstein kind of was saying that like the newest medicine is going to be frequency to heal our body and stuff.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we don't really need. What I try to tell people, we don't need to figure things out because we are connected to all that is. If we can simply relax and get out of our own way, the answer is there. And what you're saying about frequency makes total sense. We're not taught this, that I was waking up every day, like, what's going to go wrong today? What kind of reality is that going to create? And
Yeah.
we don't think about that, but and that's would be nice if we had some medical professionals that were a little bit into spirituality so they can remind us that when the psychiatrist or psychologist is talking to you, they can remind you that all these negative thoughts that you have are creating your reality. But what they typically do in those sessions, from my experience, is they keep reliving them and keep dragging up the past over and over again. And it keeps you energetically stuck in that place that you don't want to be.
Literally, figuratively, and physically into that stuck. Yeah. If you think about that, so about 95% of the day we're in the programs. That means about 95% of our reality is coming from the programs. And if 70% are negative, that's a problem, right? And so when we have to let go of those negative programs and basically, like the law of energy, it's saying thermodynamics, saying we cannot create energy, we cannot destroy energy, but we can change one form into another form. So what I help people do is take a negative program, neutralize that to have little to no resistance, and then we switch it to a positive program. And we're in that positive program, then we can manifest it because we're matching the frequency of the reality that we want. Who you are is pure and perfect love in relationship. Who you already are is joy, happiness, bliss, enlightenment. That's who we already are. And we have to awaken that power within.
Right.
That's our
Absolutely.
true self. That's our authentic self. That is our high. That's what I'm saying. That's our highest version of ourself. When we're in those higher frequency, I always say, like, help people manifest a 6 or 7 figure or that or something better, because in the higher consciousness, higher frequencies, it can get so much better than what we can kind of visualize. Like we have one sliver, but you're talking to an infinite power, unlimited power, limitless power within us that we're connected to. And when you think like that, like we said, think like God, and we feel like God, that anything and everything's possible, that life becomes exciting and fun, right? We're here to have fun. We're here to enjoy life.
So, Bruce, we're running a little short on time. So, if people had
Okay.
questions, how
Yeah.
could they reach out to you?
Yeah. I have an email. It's Bruce at rapid-reprogramming.com. That's my email. And I have a program. It's called an 8-week course. And you can go to my website, rapid-reprogramming.com. And you can get more information. And those are the 2 best ways to get a hold of me.
Okay, great. And I'll have them on our show notes. And I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.